Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Peteman Reviews. So have you had enough Generation 2 Transformers? Of course, didn't think you had. Today we have probably the pride of all Generation 2 collectors, the laser rod version of Optimus Prime. I have to say, I think it's one of the best versions of Optimus Prime out there. Looking at any version out there, Masterpiece, G1, Armada, the list goes on. This, I think, is probably one of, if not the best release of Optimus Prime out there. Less of a toy and more of a play set. This one gives you enormous functionality, and it really just goes to show what the Generation 2 line was capable of. It's just a bit of a shame that this came out towards the end of that line, 1994 to be precise. When, had this come out at the beginning of the line, 92, you would have been looking, I think, a much bigger uptake of G2. Let's have a quick look at the box, shall we? Quite a nice box on there. Underneath you've got your typical instructions or warnings in many different European languages. And on the top, just a brief outline of what kind of modes he has. You've got him in truck mode, robot mode and base mode. And on the rear, it's predominantly telling you all the different actions that you can do with the play sets, obviously which we'll come into, but you also have some of the other guys available, so some of the mini jets, the auto rollers and some of the GoBots that have been released too, with a little bit of a bio for Optimus Prime. You would hope most people know who Optimus Prime is by now, but nevertheless, maybe not everyone does. I'm not familiar with coding bar labels from the mid-90s, but potentially this one here might indicate that this was released on the 6th of November 1995, but who knows, it could mean anything. Shall we open him up? I think we should. So, obviously this doesn't necessarily come, it's not mint in box, and it doesn't have all the mint in box elements, so this is clearly a loose Optimus Prime in here. Nevertheless, it does come with the card inside. Just take Prime out for a minute, some of the other gubbins out as well. It's probably upside down. I would imagine it's meant to go this side up here, where you have the I guess string would have gone in here and keep it all in place there. So I'd probably have it upside down, but nevertheless, quite a nice little bit of box. Surprised it actually has lasted. And here we have him. Generation 2 Optimus Prime. Now, not everything's quite in its place. Let's pop this in the top there. And finally the sword, which we will just clip underneath the vehicle if I can move it in place. This is something that, in theory, looks very, very simple to do. And in practice is as well, as you get it the right way up. Okay, so there we have Optimus Prime in truck mode. Now he's become a petrol tanker, and looks really good as a petrol tanker. Surprisingly, the image on the petrol tanker is Optimus Prime Octane with Prime burning down a forest. Yeah. Prime burning down a forest? Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Maybe, kind of, not at all. Never mind. He has the obligatory Optimus Prime logo on the front of the car as well. Or cab, I should say, after all. But overall, this is a good size set. You've got a lot of Prime for your buck. Fully articulated lorry. It actually does have that full movement there. Wheels are plastic rather than rubber, but they've worn very well. Nice chrome detailing on the front. To be honest, it's a really good looking truck as well. If we just take the trailer off here, you've got a pretty nice chunky figure here. The truck at the front is the long cab base, as opposed to Prime traditional short cab base. Looks fantastic. You've got nice detailing inside with, here we go, I'm going to show you it, seats and the steering wheel, nice little bit of extra detail. You've even got rear seats as well. There's some excellent detailing on there. Now, being a laser rod, Prime does light up. There is a button here that you press. This one, of course, doesn't have any batteries in at the moment. However, it just so happens I have another laser Optimus Prime. So you can see some of the chromes come off on the front here. However, if I press the top there, you've got lights along there at the front. So he does light up with his headlights. I think that's quite a nice little effective element, but to be quite honest, you don't lose anything on the main toy as well without lights and like that. The trailer itself has got wheels here, same as before, and because of the way it stands, it's quite happy standing up without any support. You remember original Prime? If Prime wasn't connected, it would go like that. Not so with this one. This launcher system, it is a firing system and it does fire discs. You saw me put one in earlier. I'll demonstrate what it does. I'm trying to think of the best way of demonstrating it so I don't lose a disc down the back here. There we are. I think that's going to be right there. Don't know if you can see it. You have to watch this. So this dial, you twist it and it fires a disc. Like that. Fire it again. They've got quite a bit of power to them and they do go flying throughout the room. Just recover them. Now, blue discs with the, I don't know if you can see that, the Autobot symbol on them, or the G2 Autobot symbol on them. Love it all over. It's everywhere in these releases. So that's some of the playset function I was talking about. Quite a nice element actually. Whereas Power Master Prime has weapons, missiles on it, this one has a disc that flies. Can we transform them? I think we should. We'll focus on the Prime robot for a little bit. Transformation, relatively simple. Sword you've got under here, a laser sword, pulled it out, pop it to one side. Feet. Down, down. Simple so far. These will come apart and pull down like so. This top part here now, pull it apart, pull the arms up here, arm up there. These then flip down. These are actually massive shoulder pads. Yeah, massive shoulder pads. Up like that. And then for the head, well, you flip that down like so. There's the head in his chest. Flip this up. Flip that round. Pop it in there. Back in there. And there you have it. Laser Optimus Prime in robot mode. Just give him his laser sword. He does have a gun, but it's inside the trailer at the moment, so I might show you that later on. As you can see, it looks pretty darn effective, doesn't it? Put the eyes up close because it's got the clear perspex here. Ooh, the head's not meant to do that. You can see the eyes effectively light up. It's a really good version of Optimus Prime actually. The head is one of the more realistic, or well, I say realistic, I mean cartoon and comic realistic versions of Prime. Sure, he's got huge shoulder pads on his arms. It does make him look pretty intimidating, I have to say. In terms of posability, head has got good swivel range, full swivel range. By virtue of the way it transforms, it can look up and down. It's a little bit awkward because that's not really what it's meant to do, but that's because of the transformation. Arms, you've got full movement there, full articulation there, and again because of the way it transforms you can move the speaker boxes effectively, his shoulder pads up and down a little bit too. The wrists don't have any posability at all, but the rest of the arms are pretty good. As for the legs, they can ratchet up and down like that, they can ratchet forward, and he even has a knee joint as well. Again, great level of posability. He's obviously not going to stand on like that, but say you have a huge range of articulation on this character too. And again, had this come out at the very start of the Generation 2 line, I think we could have been looking at something a little bit different than what we ended up with. Size comparison wise, well, let's compare him to his original G1 incarnation, or rather the commemorative edition with a couple of upgrades. He does tower over him. He's another bot completely. As nice as the G1 version looks, in particular I like the dark of the blues and I like the red, whereas G2 Laser Prime has a bit more grey on him. Laser Prime does look much better. How does it compare with your Masterpiece figures then? Pretty darn good if I say so myself. Yeah, it actually works really well with the Masterpiece range. Doesn't look at all out of place. Okay, the detailing on Wheeljack is a lot higher, but consider the price point. But actually, G2 Prime looks really good compared to these. I know you can get, I don't actually know if it's official Masterpiece or a third-party Masterpiece release of G2 Prime. It's going to have to go something to beat the original, because the original toy looks pretty darn good. And as I say, you compare him against someone like Wheeljack. Maybe Wheeljack's not exactly the tallest of the Masterpiece range, but he does go very, very well with Laser Prime. I'll demonstrate the laser effect now. Okay, so here is the other version of Prime. As you can see, the lights have gone off a little bit here to make it a bit darker. You press the back, and you can see that basically what happens is, take the sword out, the hand lights up. So when you put this clear sword in, like so, and press it, the hilt of the sword lights up, and the way it works is it reflects the energy so that the whole blade effectively lights up. Quite a cool effect, so it gives the idea of having a red hot sword throughout. Of course, you have to keep the button pressed in for any length of time for it to work, and his trailer lights do still light up as well. But you know what? Quite a nice little touch. Again, completely unnecessary. There we are. Restore some light to this balance. But it's a nice little touch as well. Just pop this out of the way. We will come back to this again, because there's another effect I want to show you. Okay, so let's just take his sword away, take away the other primes, and our other toys. By the way, if you do want to change the batteries, underneath the cab at the back here is the screw to do so. There, I haven't bothered, to be perfectly honest, with the other one. Whereas, say if I wanted to demonstrate the laser, I've got another version of Prime, but I just haven't bothered with the other one. Have a look at the instructions, shall we, before we digress any further. Okay, so this is a missile, for those of you who didn't know. Highly rubberised, not on this part, but this end bit here. Extreme rubberised, health and safety. Oh yes, very important. Put that to one side. It's a spare missile. Spare sticker sheet. Well, not spare sticker sheet. Original sticker sheet. Sans stickers. They are, of course, already on Prime. And the instruction manual, which gives you an idea of what you get. Different kinds of functions on Prime. And so on and so forth. There's the thing. It uses two LR44 batteries. I believe they're the little watch batteries, which again I don't have any. So even if I could be bothered to prise that open, don't have any batteries for it to put in there. No matter. Instructions are actually they're in rather good nick here. Pop them to one side. Pop them in here. And I will also just put the spare missile. This is actually a spare missile. I don't need it for the rest of it. Just to give you an idea of what you get in the instructions and so on. Now we're on to the play set. Call it a play set because this is where you have all your functions that you want to do. You might notice under here there's a little pin. Shall we press it? Yeah. What happens? Nothing. Probably need to do that first. Right, do that first, then you press the pin, and then you go. That should go flying up there. This goes flying down. Everything then falls out, so you have to put it all back in again. But the idea is that's meant to be an auto move around. I have kept everything a little bit loose in here as well, so I don't put too much pressure on the springs. But yeah, it's a pretty cool playset. If anything can be described as cool. Yeah, this is it. So as you can see, there are the different buttons in there. So in here is a compression gun. We'll come down to that later. There is a lot to see and do with this. Start off your throwing gun here. Now, when I transformed him up, all of these things came flying out with the discs. So the idea is that this is on a ratchet, and you can move it around, and it will now fire round through here. In here, you have a missile. Come to that later. Do you know what? Actually, let's come to that now. Back here, you have danger. If I put it all the way around, you have a danger sign here, and you have that. This is your missile launcher, and it works on the basis of compressed air. So you can see this is hollow here. Now, oh, that's interesting. There's another missile in the back here. I suspect that's not meant to be there. It's not. Okay, things to see and do every way. When you push this over here, make sure you rotate it enough that it has to completely go right down the bottom. Like so. No gap. This means that when you press this, the rocket will now fire. Let's give it a show, shall we? That's gone quite a long way. Completely out of shot on the camera. You won't have had any benefit of that, unfortunately, because you can't see it. Let's do this again. Again, you have to rotate this to find the sweet spot so that it goes completely over like that. If I pop it like this, put the trajectory like that, this is going to go sailing across the room, like so. I should just retrieve the missile at my leisure. It's surprising, given how little force comes out of this point, it's quite surprising how far that missile flies. Darn good little invention, I think, and it was used again on the re-release of Megatron, or if we had it here in Europe, Arch Force, with the firing compressed air gun. Very good little play piece there. You also have a missile launcher here. This will click up. By clicking up, you have to take it fully off there. See this ball joint here? Pop it on top. Like so. Now, I've kept the missiles loose because I don't want the springs to go on this, because it's got a bit of a kick to it. So the idea is you've got a total of 5 missiles that you can put on here, and these are literally spring-fired missiles. If I try and point it at the camera, you just release that like that, and nothing happens because you have to push it down. Try that again, shall we? So, pop it in like that, you press it down, and that has quite a range to it. Now this is surprisingly quite a large missile and completely solid. Considering the amount of kick on that, I'm a bit surprised that got past health and safety, but there we are. Now, makers of Prime, Hasbro, clearly knew that you were going to lose a lot of those missiles. Hence the fact that they give you all of these spares, and quite a nice little way of storing them as well. Yeah, this guy comes with a lot of accessories. So you have 5 spare missiles, 5 missiles here as well, 5 discs, you've got 2 of these, and there's a gun on top as well. It's just unbelievably loaded. The gun on top here just rotates around, doesn't really do that much. It's on a little swivel, you can move it around like that. The other bonus with it is it's a weapon for Optimus Prime to hold. This is the lighting up version of Prime. So, we pop this in here. Oh, that's a clear bit of plastic. I wonder what happens now when we press the button. Lights up again. You can see basically the hand lights up there, and that's transferred through to the pointed bits on the barrels. Nice idea again. It also has on the little stacks there just to transfer it through so you can see the energy flowing through the barrels. Really, really nice gimmick. Again, a little bit, would be nice to have one on here as well, but just a nice little gimmick again. So, that is one heck of a playset. The amount of stuff you get on it is impressive. You know, let's face it, most big versions of Prime now do come with a trailer that you pull it apart, it transforms. I mean, heck, the G1 version of Prime did that, and you've got a few bits. Sometimes you get roller, which goes flying out. This guy doesn't have roller, perhaps that's the only thing missing from it. But most of them you can put things in. This one is an armada all onto itself. It's big, really big. I mean, remember, pull up our Masterpiece guy. Wheeljack, and he fits in nicely there. G2 Prime himself goes very nicely with it, and G1 Prime of course will look a little bit lost, but actually he scales not too bad with it at all. It is a really good set, this. I think G2 Laser Prime, as I've said before, is probably the pride of most people's G2 collection. This is where the money's been spent big. Megatron, I suppose Megatron got the big tank mode to begin with, but this is where your money went. And this is where Hasbro's money went. It's got everything, you know. Perhaps it doesn't have roller, but I can live with that. It's just brilliant. You've got various function bits. In here you've just got little rubber stands, but you can stand your smaller Transformers on there. You've just got so much to do. Bits you can terrorise the house cat by sending all the missiles flying after him. Hours of fun trying to find the missiles again. These little discs will just go flying off, never to be seen again, and then it makes it good for collectors to go, well, this one doesn't come with a sword, but this one comes with 3 missiles, so I've got to buy both. So I've got the whole lot. Gee, I wonder if that's how I got 2 primes. I digress. But yeah, it's a brilliant toy. Not cheap, but it depends on how complete you want it. If you want it in the box with all the stuff on it, you could be looking, 50 to maybe 80, maybe even £90. Depends on exactly how mint you want it. You can obviously buy re-releases of Prime just with the robot figure, and that's not a bad thing. But if you want the full experience, the full playset, you've got to get this one here. It's just, I think it's the most work that I've seen in a Hasbro release, and it's just a real shame that it came so late in the G2 range. If this had come out in '92, I think we could be looking at G2 Transformers as being much more successful than they were, because this is where the money is, and this just gives a level of, the articulation there, that's not out of place on the Masterpiece toy today. All the accessories with here are over and above what you get on a Masterpiece toy today. You can't really lose. Is it worth the money? Hell yeah. And I probably would suggest trying to get one now, because again, they ain't making these anymore, so if you want to get one that's in good condition, do so. Just one word of warning: make sure the springs on these are not fully loaded, because they will degrade over time. The other one I've got, the springs work, but they are very trigger happy, because unfortunately they spent probably at least 10 years fully loaded without firing, so that's a lot of overloading on the springs. I do potentially, these is fine and the other one's fine, but I can see this as being something that might potentially degrade as well, because in order to make this fire you have to have a perfect seal, or the air will escape before it fires the missile. But those are minor things. I mean, the electronics could go, all of that could fail, but then you'd ended up with a toy that's great to look at and scales really well with the rest of your collection. Thank you very much for watching. Please do watch some other videos, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next review. Thank you. Goodbye.